It's early morning in Normandy. The air smells like damp earth, diesel fumes, and gunpowder. The sun is just a pale bruise behind the smoke. You're sitting inside a Sherman tank, the metal walls cold against your back, the smell of oil thick in your throat. Your loader, Private Collins, wipes sweat from his face, even though the air is freezing. Outside, someone shouts, "Panther, 11 o'clock, 200 yards. The words hit harder than artillery, because every man in this crew knows what that means. A German Panther, the nightmare of Allied tankers. Thicker armor, longer gun, better optics. One shot from its 75mm L-70 cannon can punch straight through a Sherman from half a mile away. And here you are, staring down one through a haze of smoke, in a tank the Germans used to call a death trap. Your commander, Lieutenant Harris, breathes out slowly. Steady. Hold her here. The Panther's turret swings, smooth, predatory. You can hear it before you see it, that grinding steel groan of a machine built for killing. Loader, HVAP, Harris orders. For a second, Collins freezes. Then he realizes what the lieutenant said. HVAP. He reaches into the ammo rack, fingers brushing over the dull olive shells until he finds the one that looks slightly different. Shorter case, silver tip, black band around its neck. The high-velocity armor piercing round. The one the Germans never expected the Americans to have. HVAP loaded. The gunner adjusts his sight. His hand trembles, not from fear, but focus. Through his scope he can see the Panther's glacis plate glinting, thick, angled armor that could shrug off most shells. But not this one. On the way, the 76mm gun roars. The tank shakes like it's been hit by a sledgehammer. A blinding flash, then smoke. The gunner blinks hard, peering through the haze. The HVAP shell screams across the field at nearly 3,400 feet per second. It's faster than sound, faster than instinct. And when it hits, it doesn't explode. It cuts. Tungsten core meets German steel and the steel loses. A small flash of orange appears on the Panther's front plate. Then another. Then fire. Inside the tank. Hit. She's burning. Collins lets out a shout that's half relief, half disbelief. The crew can see it. The mighty Panther, that iron beast everyone feared, choking on its own smoke. Holy hell, the gunner whispers. We actually killed it. For months, the Panther had been terrorizing Allied tank crews. It wasn't invincible, but it was close. Its sloped armor could bounce almost any American shell, and its 75mm cannon could knock out a Sherman from 2,000 meters. Sherman crews knew that if you saw a Panther first, you might live. If it saw you first, you were dead. The Americans had tried everything, flanking, artillery, even air support, but face to face, it was no contest. Then, in late 1944, the U.S. Army began issuing a new kind of round to some of its 76mm armed Shermans, the M93 HVAP, high-velocity armor-piercing. A strange, almost experimental ammunition, designed not to explode, but to pierce. Its secret lay in its heart, a dense tungsten carbide core wrapped in a lightweight aluminum shell. It was lighter, faster, and deadlier. It didn't rely on brute force, it relied on physics. When fired, the HVAP's lighter outer shell accelerated faster than standard AP rounds, giving it almost 25% more velocity. That extra speed meant kinetic energy, the ability to punch through armor thicker than itself. At 500 yards, a standard 76mm shell could barely scratch a Panther's front. The HVAP could punch right through. The problem? It wasn't much of it. Tungsten was rare, and desperately needed elsewhere. So only a few lucky Sherman crews ever got them, and those who did kept them like gold. In the chaos of Normandy, few soldiers knew the science behind it. They just knew one thing: when you loaded an HVAP round, you had a chance. A young tank commander named Sergeant Doane Farrell once described it in his journal. We didn't call it HVAP, we called it our miracle bullet. It was the only thing that made a Sherman feel like a real tank. At first, the Germans didn't believe it. They'd inspect wrecked Panthers and see tiny, clean punctures in the armor, impossible holes that shouldn't exist. They thought it was sabotage, or maybe luck. But then the reports started piling up. Panthers knocked out from the front. Crews killed without explosions. Something had changed. In the Ardennes, December 1944, the Battle of the Bulge, that change came to life. The 3rd Armored Division was pinned down outside a Belgian village. Snow was coming down thick and heavy. Visibility was low, radio chatter broken. German armor was everywhere, tigers and panthers rolling through the fog. Lieutenant Harris and his Sherman crew were dug in near a small stone farmhouse. They'd already lost 2 tanks in their platoon. Panther moving left, came the call over the radio. The engine noise grew louder, a slow, deep growl. Then they saw it. That distinct silhouette, broad hull, long barrel. It was hunting. Inside the Sherman, every man was quiet. The gunner adjusted his sight, whispering, "She's too far." Harris replied, "Then wait, let her come to us." The Panther stopped, turned slightly, its front plate angled just enough. "Range 600, the gunner said. Harris exhaled. "Loader, HVAP. Collins slid the shell in, slamming the breech closed. The tungsten tip caught the faint glow from the periscope. Harris gave a single nod. Fire. The world became thunder. The HVAP shot streaked through the snow, invisible, silent, final. It hit the Panther dead on, piercing through the glacis like a bullet through glass. A jet of flame erupted from the back of the German tank. The crew inside didn't even have time to bail out. The tank went still, then erupted, the ammo cooking off, turret popping like a cork. The Sherman crew sat in stunned silence. Van Harris simply said, "Reload," because there were more out there. By early 1945, HVAP had become the equalizer. Not every Sherman had it, but those that did could finally look a Panther in the eye and not flinch. The Americans started to change their tactics. Instead of avoiding duels, they started baiting them. They'd draw German tanks into open fields, then strike from ambush with HVAP-loaded 76mm guns. German tankers began to report something strange. Their once invincible armor was failing. Panthers that should have survived 2 or 3 hits were going up in smoke after one. Their confidence, their greatest weapon, began to crack. One German officer wrote in his after-action report, "It appears the enemy's guns have increased in strength. We suffered losses at ranges previously considered safe." What they didn't know was that the increased strength wasn't a new gun. It was a new bullet. But HVAP was still scarce. For every crew that got it, 10 didn't. Many tankers heard about it like it was a myth, the magic bullet. They'd beg supply officers for just 1 or 2 rounds to keep for when it really mattered. And sometimes, it did. In one engagement near Cologne, a Sherman crew knocked out 2 Panthers in under a minute. The first shot hit the lower glacis, right under the Panther's nose. The second, fired seconds later, punched through the side armor of another as it turned. Both kills confirmed HVAP rounds. When word spread, the morale shift was instant. Suddenly, Sherman crews weren't just prey, they were hunters again. The war ended months later. By then, the HVAP's secret was out. Every major nation wanted to study it. The tungsten core concept went on to inspire post-war sabot rounds, the ancestors of today's tank ammunition. But for the men who fought in 1944 and 1945, it wasn't about metallurgy or science. It was about hope. A small, dense, hand-polished shell that gave them a fighting chance in a war where the odds were always stacked against them. One veteran, long after the war, said it best. "When we first saw the Panthers, we thought we were dead men. But when we got those HVAP rounds, for the first time, we thought maybe we could live." In the end, the 76mm Sherman never became the monster that the Panther was. It didn't need to. Because sometimes, all it takes to change a war is one new idea, fired at the right time by men brave enough to pull the trigger. As the smoke clears, the Sherman crew watches their target burn, the crackle of fire, the hiss of steam. Harris lowers his binoculars. Guess the Krauts aren't invincible after all, he mutters. Collins loads another HVAP shell, his hand steady now. The gunner grins. Ready when you are, Lieutenant. Outside the snow keeps falling. The world is quiet again for now, but in that silence something fundamental has changed. Because in the winter of 1944, against all odds, the humble 76mm Sherman, with nothing but courage, teamwork, and a handful of tungsten-tipped miracles, had become what the Germans never expected it to be. A Panther-killer,